Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let's chant the first of our salient verses. We can chant them together. So this is verse number 211 first. Actually, it's just on your sheet, so it's number 1 and number 2, okay? Ashochanan vashochastvam Ashochanan vashochastvam Prajnavatamscha bhashase Prajnavatamscha bhashate Gatasunscha nanushochanti panditaha. Veda vinashinam nityam yaenam ajamafyayam katam sapurushav pata kam khatayati hantikam. So I think that's where we finished yesterday. We just looked at the verse. So we're just going to go back and have a quick look at consciousness, so to speak, of course. So this consciousness, we were talking about how consciousness has no locus. There is no one place that we can pin consciousness, right? And we talked about space. And we talked about how space is actually in consciousness. And we talked about the stars being in space. We talked about the distance between two stars. Then we talked about the distance between a star and consciousness. And we decided that there was no space between those, and also between a star and space. And I realize you're looking probably a little puzzled, Phyllis, because I think that might have been after you left yesterday. So we'll do a little recap, okay? Getting some very puzzled looks. Maybe, and it's okay to have photographs of everybody, I think, because then we don't see the puzzled faces either when we're teaching. So just a still photograph, you know. No, it's good actually. Actually, it makes it a lot easier to teach when you see, because you can tell, okay, this needs a little more explaining. Something's not working here. So, and we're going to talk about forgetfulness. In fact, Swamini talked about forgetfulness last night. So that's a blessing of Bhagavan, right? We remember that. We remember that forgetfulness is a blessing of Bhagavan. What a wonderful thing. Okay, so there's only one consciousness. This is what we say. And then you say to me, well, wait a minute. There's an I here and there's an I here. If you're telling me that this I business, you know, this I who I am, is an actual, you know, this I who I am is consciousness, and you're telling me there's one consciousness, but there's me consciousness, and there's you consciousness sitting over there channeling. And that's what it is, you know, how there's two consciousness. And I say, okay, all right, but does that I need anything else to light it up? Does that I need this I? I don't think so. I don't think that. and if one of you tells me, yes, the I needs the I to light it up, Sujata, can someone tell Sujata to log in and log out? Please, could someone type that for me? Thank you. Yeah, maybe if someone can just let her know to, thank you. So, when the sound doesn't come, log out and log back in. That's that usually fixes it, okay? So this I that is so as though here does not need the I that is sitting away from it to light it up. That would be pretty funny, actually. You know, if if Swaminiji asks in class and she says, are you here? And someone turns around and says, well, could you just wait a minute? I'm going to call, let me just call my significant other or non-significant other, or let me just call someone and have them just double check that I'm here. In the day of cell phones, we can say this. Before there were cell phones, this probably wouldn't have carried, but everybody whips out one cell phone and says, let me just double check, oh yes, look, there's a cell phone here, somebody talking on the other end, it means I'm here. No, we don't need to do this. It's a self-effulgent I. So then you say, well, okay, so, but that still doesn't, I'm still not getting that this I that is self-effulgent, that happens to be seeming to be located just in this body-mind-sense complex, there still looks like there's this duality going on. And we dismiss the body. So we can say, what about this body? What about this mind? We can say, okay, this body has been dismissed. We've talked about this. And then we can also say that there's only one consciousness, right? And if there's not only one consciousness, what happens if we make two consciousnesses? Is that how you say in plural consciousnesses? There's a lot of "s" in that consciousness, okay? So if we make two consciousnesses, then what have we done? We've limited consciousness. So, and we know that this is the limitless that we're talking about. So we can't make two consciousnesses because we're making something limited. Plus, it also says in the Upanishads, okay? So, I can't say that there's two consciousnesses because that's going to limit it. And so, I'm still not quite getting about this body, though. What is this body? This body is an object, right? Because this I can even objectify its own body, let alone objectify anybody else's body. One can objectify it. So the bodies are objects. Consciousness is, the bodies are objects. The only reason that the body is there is because the consciousness is there to light up as though the body, right? And this is the clay pot, and it's going to, all the best plans go awry. The clay pot was going to be here in the hand today, but the clay pot didn't make it. So we have a pretend clay pot in the hand, okay? And how do we explain this? We say, if there was a clay pot sitting here, I could say to you, you can all have the pot, that's no problem, but I want you to leave me the clay. What are you going to walk away with? Are you going to walk away with the pot? No, you can't, because you've got to leave me the clay, right? So in the same way, this body is an object as the pot is an object when we're talking about clay as being satyam with regards to the truth, with regards to the clay. So the clay is the truth of the pot. And we also, Puja Swamiji will sit and talk about this and say that the truth, he will say the weight of the pot is the weight of the clay, just to make this really, really clear. Too many thoughts are coming. Puja Swamiji kept one tray of the tricks of the trade, if you like, beside him. And on that tray were not only pots in every shape, size, form, not every size, because, the biggest one was maybe about yay big, but not only the pots, but also some, those things that sit over here, at least in America, some of those things that sit in the back window of the car, and the heads go like this. They just, is that what's it called? A bubble head, okay, not a bubble hat, no, a bubble head, okay, and the heads just go like this. Yeah, Faith is saying bubble head, okay. This is new for me, okay? James, this might be new for you too, because I didn't know these were called bubble heads, all right? So anyway, these things that sit in the back of the car, he didn't use it. It's got nothing to do with the discussion now, but the thought was coming very strong, so I thought I would share about it, okay? So these things would sit like this. absolutely useless, have no use at all. But Puja Swamiji loved these things, and he would knock the head, and he would sit there happily and watch until that head stopped going up and down like this. And it was a little clown. We call it the Churchill dog. Oh no, James, I must have left the UK before before the Churchill dog came into being. So let's not go into how many years ago that was. Okay. So okay, let's go back to our clay and pot. Why are we talking about the clay and the pot? Because we're looking at what that consciousness is. We're looking at consciousness's relationship to the body. So really, why are we talking about all this? We started talking about that last verse yesterday, and before we were talking about the first verse. So how come this is coming in? Because today we're talking about the subject-object. And so the subject, of course, is the consciousness. And of course, we want to objectify it in order to know anything. The only way we have known up to this point to know anything is by objectifying it. And we have to see that relationship between consciousness and what we take this I to be. We have to see that relationship. And so we explain that by using this pot and clay example. We use other examples as well. Not quite so well. The gold one is nice, the gold and the ornaments. It's like, oh yes, okay, I can take this body to be gold, and sorry, not the body, the consciousness to be the gold and the body to be an ornament. But we also have the iron and the nail clippers. That's another one that we use. So this body is the dependent reality, right? This is what we call a dependent reality. And of course, the Sanskrit word for that, or the Vedantic word for that, mithya. Okay, so and when does it become? Yes, that's right, mithya. Yeah. And when does it become? What is mithya? Mithya is the name, a word, and its meaning. So we can go all the way back with this. We have words and meaning, words and meanings. We have our clay, we have our pot. So pot is mithya in this example. Clay is satyam. Okay, so what is satyam for clay? And we can go all the way back. We can extrapolate this all the way back and end up with waves and particles. And we can say, oh, waves and particles, that is this whole universe. That's what it is. It's all waves and particles. And then we run into another issue and say, oh, wait a minute, what is supporting all those waves and particles? How come, how come we have these waves and particles? What is the truth of those? This is if we can get back to, this is if we want to look at the whole thing from the perspective that everything has to have some sort of material basis. And so those waves and particles, we're going to get stuck. We have to ask one more question, as Puja Swamiji says. What then upholds these waves and particles? And so we can take it back to that, and there's so much diversity here. Even if we take it back to that and say, okay, well, that's what consciousness is. Consciousness is just waves and particles. Is that going to tell us anything about what this consciousness is, how this consciousness behaves? And this is where we have to really do a little bit of thinking about what is it that is the message of the Gita? What is the message of the Upanishads? The message of the Upanishads is there is nothing here, right, but Ishvara. And that we're not proving that consciousness is here. There's no need to prove that. It's self-effulgent. But we have to make that leap from seeing that this this consciousness is all that is here. And so that's the piece that we're doing right now with the mithya, the dependent reality upon consciousness. So the other thing we know about this consciousness is that it's impartite, meaning that it doesn't have any parts. And there's so much diversity. So how can you sit here and say, you tried to go all the way back and it didn't work? Oh, Sujata, can someone find out if Sujata is saying that the sound is not working? And it seems like everybody else is hearing, so maybe she's got some adjustment that's not working properly. So we're talking about consciousness, it's impartite, there's no parts. How all this diversity? Well, we can see in part, we can use the example of all the waves and particles, and we can get all caught up in this and say, well, look, waves and particles, if we take everything, we can deconstruct this whole manifestation and take it all the way back to waves and particles. But again, that only takes us so far. That tells us, okay, there's waves and particles, but we don't know what this waves and particles is. What is supporting that? Again, we can objectify waves and particles, and when we're talking about the very subject, then we cannot objectify the subject, and this is where Vedanta walks in. So there's no parts. Where does it say there's no parts? All over the place. Kaivalya Upanishad is one of them. Tat Advayam Brahma, that it's that which has no second, there is nothing other than that which is Brahman. So you will see this through every Upanishad. And so how can I see it? How can I see that there's only one thing? So how many are required to see that there's only one thing? A minimum of 2, right? So again, this is all showing we're not going to be able to objectify that which is consciousness, that which is that which is, okay? So consciousness is the subject, and if it's the subject, there is no way that if it's the very subject of it, the moment one gets into objectifying, we've made 2, we've split it. So it's a very tricky road that we're walking down now to see this. And at one level, it's actually very easy to understand. At one level, one can stand back, intellectualize, and say, oh yes, clay pot, gold ornament, yes, this is all. I can understand there's something that's upholding all of this, and it just is able to manifest into all these shapes and forms, and it's just one thing, and its very essence is that one thing. So at one level, we can say that's very easy. And then we have to contend with these thoughts. We have to contend with the body. Hence we sit in Vedanta classes day in, day out, and just suspend all that we've been taught taught about the world. And so we suspend all that so that we can understand through and through and address and knock off all the pieces of us that want to jump in and become the knower. So again, we come back to this question, why can't I see that it's just one? How come? And the Upanishads have chosen not to, or not even the Upanishads, has chosen not to allow a sensory perception. Why? Because how can you have a sensory perception of this? Again, you would be objectifying something. But the Upanishads have in all this consciousness, this Brahman, this what is here, in all its mercy, has given us a way to understand this. And that is through the teachings and through Vedanta. And there's many things that we actually don't have any privy to, which are in the Upanishads, including a memory that says, oh, I'm supposed to be recording these classes online. So if I don't record, then you all don't get your don't all get your marks for being in class, and I missed it yesterday. So everybody was here yesterday. We're going to say you all get a free pass for yesterday, okay? Everybody who is here today gets a free pass for yesterday, whether you were here or not. I really can't remember. So we don't have privy to all of the inner workings of the Upanishads. What do you mean? You've just told us that there is a way that we will be able to understand this, that there's one consciousness and that I am that consciousness, and that there is nothing here but consciousness. I happen to be that consciousness. Whether you call it Brahman, whether you call it Ishvara, that's the truth of myself. That's very true. That's at one level. From the Vyavaharika level, we have to look at the fact that there's this punya papa, for instance. And again, the Veda doesn't make it clear on how that punya and papa exactly is earned. There is something called the Manusmriti, which is a fun text, fun text to read, which talks about what you will get reborn as, what your next birth will be if you behave in certain ways and if you do certain things. So for instance, the pickpocket, the one who likes to not pick their own pockets, and it's not talking about picking lint out of pockets, the one who likes to go and relieve people, as Swamini says, give them instant vairagya, relieve them of their belongings from their own pockets. That person will be born as an octopus, according to Manusmriti, the Manusmriti text in its next life. And then you can imagine, you just have to imagine some of the other ones. Those who like to sleep a lot, very, very tamasic and just like to sleep, and they like to be in the sun and lay on the beach perhaps and sleep. Maybe a cat in the next life, because if you've ever watched a cat, it will find the one patch of sunshine in the room and it will just happily sit down there and go to sleep. So all of this is there in Manusmriti, but we don't know how that punya and papa is being used. We're not told how that punya and papa is going to manifest. We don't know which little suitcase of karma we're going to be born with. Out of that big suitcase of sanchita karma, we don't know what prarabdha karma, the karma that we come into this life with, we don't know which karma we're going to come into this life with. It's not that there's a choice for as though individual jiva in saying, no, this life I would like that. I want that piece I want that punya to unfold that's going to allow me to live in some castle somewhere and, have 16 servants just for myself. For the family, they would have their own servants. We don't have any choice over what is going to manifest with regards to the punya and papa coming into the punya and papa that's going to unfold in this life. So there's a lot of areas where we don't necessarily get to understand all the workings that are going on. What we rely on then is, of course, a pramana. This is what Swamini was talking about. It's always amazing to me how all of the classes going along in any course like this, and this happened all the time in the 3-year course, all of the classes seem to go along and they're all covering the same topics at the same time. And Pujya Swamiji used to comment on this so much, was we would be at one place in the Upanishad and what was being covered in the Gita would be covering that exact same piece. So everything matches up. So Swamini so last night she was talking at length about pramana, and she was talking about what makes a pramana. So who remembers all of what makes a pramana from last night? Let's see if we can, even if you can get it in English. And it's okay, Phyllis, you're off the hook. Does anybody remember? This is just to see who's, who was in class last night. 1, and 2, who remembers these pieces? And okay, it reveals what can not be known through any other pramana. Excellent. It should be meaningful, arthavat, right? Something that cannot be known through other ways. Exactly. So it has its own sphere of operation. So the eyes, for instance, are not going to be hearing, knowing that the airplane is outside the window right now, for instance. So one pramana cannot contradict another, yes. And it doesn't depend on the doer. That's a big one, Nirmala, very good. That's a big part of it. We do not, the doer, the pramana is not operated by, well, let's put it like this. We can't choose what that pramana, the information that that pramana is going to bear, okay? There is a slight, there's a slight catch in this, and we'll come to that in a minute. Let me just read what everybody's writing here. So it should bear some result. Yes, very good. There should be some result from it. Palavat, right? And there's one more that you haven't yet come up with. It shouldn't contradict itself. That's right. It shouldn't contradict another means of knowledge, nor should it contradict itself. And there's one more. You can't. Vastu tantram. Yeah, vastu tantram jnanam. Exactly. Natu gatum tantram. Very good. It doesn't operate on your own will. That's what we were talking about. And then the other one is that it cannot be negated by another one, which is really what we're saying. It can't be contradicted, but also it, in and of itself, cannot be negated. Okay, whether it's it would have to be by another pramana that it would be negated, so it's not contradictory. But this piece about vastu tantram jnanam, one thing with that is what makes it, and Swaminiji was talking about this last night beautifully, one thing that makes this pramana a little more challenging for us is it appears that we are dependent upon something else. It's my eyes, my ears, my sense of taste, and my oh my, do we disagree over the sense of taste quite a bit, one person says, oh, this is so delicious, and the other person says, oh my gosh, this is like full of salt, or oh my goodness, this does not have enough salt. So we don't agree with that. We may not agree with that particular assessment of what it is. So we have this attachment to our own senses, our own, what we derive from this certain pramanas. However, with this one, Shabda Pramana, Vedanta Pramana, we don't have any as though control over what comes in. So long as we are sitting and our minds are open and, we're not sitting picking holes in what's being said and picking holes in who's teaching and picking holes in our own, thinking about ourselves, oh, I'm not a good listener, oh, I'm not a good student, I'm not this, I'm not that. So long as all of that is suspended, then the teaching will happen. The teaching takes place because it's all based, it's a package deal, as Swaminiji says. It's just the words of the Shastra. It's also the parampara. So it's all being passed down from student to teacher. Sorry, teacher to student. But then that student becomes a teacher. So really, in a way, it becomes down from the teacher to student. So we can say it both ways. So this pramana, this is how we come to know that this is how we come to know the truth of ourselves. And the reason we brought this in was we were saying that consciousness is impartite. There are no parts. And how do we know this? We know this because of Shabda Pramana. This is what the Upanishads tell us. And so we have to exercise some shraddha until we understand this completely. And we come to understand that through listening and through our own efforts to make sure that we become the adhikaris that are capable, that we have an inner instrument, the mind. That's right, through Shravanam. We have a mind that is capable and prepared to understand this. What capable? Every mind, unless there's some sort of damage, has happened is absolutely 100% capable of learning this. As Pujya Swamiji used to say, better not wait until we have gotten too old, and there may be some senility or some sort of Alzheimer's or one of these things setting in. So he would say the time is now. That now, okay, interestingly, that now, it doesn't matter. It's not age bound at all. That now is the moment the mind starts questioning and saying, what am I? Who am I? Because if the mind is having that question, it's a perfectly capable mind. The mind is perfectly capable of understanding this knowledge. If the mind's not having that question, then of course it's not going to know that. It's not going to know about that. So our pramanas, we can't go against logic, and we can't go against logic, and we can borrow from other forms of logic which we've been taught, and in fact we do borrow heavily from other forms of logic. There's something called Nyaya Shastra, which Pujya Swamiji, somebody asked about this in class the other day, said, don't go off and study it. It'll confuse you completely until the knowledge is, that you're feeling very settled in the knowledge. But there are other shastras which talk just literally about how we follow through with all this logic. And another thing about pramanas that we didn't touch on, it can be beyond. It can talk about that which is beyond logic. And we see this with Swamini Ji talked about the crows in heaven. And what did she say about the crows in Swarga last night? It's white and what else? It's white and they're black on earth, but there was something else about these crows in heaven. Has teeth, yeah. So, if anybody is artistic, it might be a fun picture to draw for Swamini Ji sometime. It's a little crow with, some teeth and coloured white. Don't frame it or anything though, okay? But just, it might be fun to have a picture of a crow with teeth. And as though, we can only imagine. So it can be beyond logic. A crow with teeth really is beyond, logic, as well as being something that's not really useful for us to know. Except for the fact, as Swamini Ji pointed out last night, if one's planning on going to heaven, it might be good to know that they have teeth so that one can avoid them in heaven. Okay, all right. So now we come to the second verse that we started to look at, right? So we're going to start with the second line of this verse, and this verse is talking about the actionlessness of Atma, and it goes in more to explain Atma is not this. It's not neither the subject nor the object. So first of all, we started by saying, oh, consciousness, Atma, that is I, subject. But now we're going to say, we're moving into the second stage of the teaching here, saying, oh, wait a minute, that I, that consciousness transcends both the subject and the object. So let's start looking at the second line. And it says, Katam sa purushaha pata. Pata here is Arjuna. And he's saying, how for that person can there be such a thing as killing and causing something to kill? Again, we're sticking with some really rather extreme examples, and we talked about death, and the reason for using the death, and why the first verse focused straight away on death. And here the theme is carrying on, and again, it's all the same reasons that we have to look at. What is the context of the whole of Bhagavad Gita? It's a war. So it's pertinent then to the situation to be talking about killing and causing to kill. You know, as I think I overheard, if you were all in Sanskrit classes, anybody who was in Sanskrit classes this morning, I think I overheard Vidya talking about a sentence. She said, boy drinks milk. And then she said, milk drinks boy. And perfect, both of them grammatically correct, but contextually, milk drinking the boy, it doesn't make sense. And she was using it for something else, but we're going to use it for that. And Pujya Swamiji used to explain this with another sentence. He said, we have this grammatical sentence that we can say, the elephant entered, I have to get the right and left, the right ear. It walked through the space between the two ears and out of the left ear. Perfectly good sentence, totally grammatically correct. However, absolutely no contextual meaning at all. If anybody has had an elephant enter the right ear and leave the left ear, perhaps we should, it might be a good idea to go and see a specialist. What kind of specialist? One who can talk to you about, the size of elephants, the size of heads and things like that. So, too many thoughts going. So perfectly good sentence, but no context. So the context here we have to see. The context is that of a battlefield. So of course we're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about death. We're going to be talking about dying. These are the big issues around. Even today, one just has to pick up the newspaper or read whatever's online, and that is what is splashed all across the newspapers. So death, dying is what is the contextually correct here. Also, we talked about the wrestler. I think we went with the wrestler. But again, it's the case of if we can show actionless in death, in killing, then what to say of showing actionless? That's a very, it's got so many S's in that word. In actually eating or perhaps going to the office, filing papers, whatever it might be, what to say about that. So the Gita just jumps right in and just knocks off the most heinous action that there is possible. And so this wise person who knows that for the Atma there is nothing it's not possible to kill, and nor is it possible to cause something to kill. And who is this Atma? What is this Atma? And that's in the first line. So, avinashinam, it's indestructible. Nash dhatu, to destroy. So we put that, there's actually two upasargas there. Sorry, no, there's one upasarga, vi, and then nash, not, and then vi is bringing in that sense of really destroy, and we put that in front and that negates it, okay? So, avinashinam. And the verse right after, two verses after this one, I think this is verse 21, in chapter 2, verse number 23, it talks about the indestructibility of this Atma. How indestructible is it? It says that the weapons, it can't be slayed. No weapon. And it doesn't matter who has that weapon. And if you read through, that's the verse. If you read through the Mahabharata, you see all sorts of weaponry that is produced and heard about, including these special weapons these special shastras that Arjuna has spent many years perfecting. They include a lot of learning various mantras and a lot of siddhis, special powers. And so none of these weapons, it doesn't matter, you can imagine anything from the H-bomb to, not that Arjuna had an H-bomb, or there's an H-bomb and an atom bomb, huh? H and an A, okay. So for some reason it's the H-bomb, but the atom bomb, I don't know why, not that. Yeah, it's the hydrogen, but I don't, they always call it the H-bomb, right? Why not the A-bomb? Anyway, we won't get... but they used to call it A, and it's the atomic. It was never called the A. Never called the A bomb, right? It was always called the hydrogen, the atom bomb and the H bomb, I think. So I don't know why they called them. Anyway, we don't need to worry about it. But neither of those have any power, no power at all to destroy this Atma. So what to say of like some puny little sword, or some, just regular bow and arrow, some pair of scissors even? Nothing can destroy this Atman. With regards to weapons, well, okay, what about any natural elements? Maybe some good old earthquake or some forest fire, or, living here in the Western United States, we get a lot in the summer, and it's looking like we could have a particularly hot summer again. We get a lot of absolutely devastating fires, and these forest fires take out acres and acres and acres of forest, and they take out houses as well, of course, and much wildlife, a lot of destruction. Is any of this destroying Atma? No. It says no, the fire cannot destroy. It cannot be burnt. There is no way you can even, it doesn't even get hot, let alone, it doesn't even get warm, let alone hot. This Atma cannot be destroyed by fire. And nor can we drown this Atma. It's not like we can pick up this Atma and go and dip it in a big lake and hold it there and hold it under the water and expect it to drown. That's not going to happen either. And it doesn't matter, you forget a lake, let's take it to the ocean. We'll take the boat out into the middle of the ocean, drop Atma off the side, and we'll see if it drowns. No, that's not going to happen either. So nothing we can do to drown this Atma. What about the wind? Even if the wind can't blow this Atma away, it can just dry it all out. We just have to stand the Atma up and let the hot winds of samsara dry out this Atma. No, it can't be destroyed in this way. So, avinashinam, this Atma is not something that can be destroyed any which way, anyhow. What else about it? What's the next word there? Nityam. It's timeless. So what is timeless? Good question, huh? What is timeless? What is timelessness? So when we're thinking about the past, when are we thinking about the past? Now, right? And if we're thinking about the future, when are we thinking about the future? Now. Okay, so if I say the word now, when is the now in now? Is it when the nakara starts? Oh, the N starts? So half English, half Sanskrit here. Is it when the N starts? Or is it as the ow bit's going away? So what is this time anyway? Who has a handle on this time really? So when is now? And this is when we say that I, all the time, that consciousness there. And so you can see it transcends totally that I, that being here, that I-ness, that I am, transcends time. Because it doesn't matter whether I is at the n, or whether it's at the ow. It's I am. So nityam, timelessness. And then the next one, ajam. And ajaha, Swaminiji talked about this, I think, a few days ago, maybe last week. Ajaha, ajaha, unborn, but also the word for goat. Okay? So, no mistake in that. And we talk about the goats, the goats became, they ate the banana leaves on which the first Upanishads were written down, and they say that Shankaracharya wrote his commentaries on the banana leaves. And in fact, the Bhagavad Gita was subject to this very thing. They believe that a goat ate the first verse of the 12th or 13th chapter because it is missing. There is a verse that appears to be missing, chapter 13, the first verse. So it appears to be missing because the chapters jump straight into answering a question of which there is no record of the question. So it is, what we say is that a goat ate the leaf, the particular banana leaf on which that verse was. So ajaha, nice way, and when you learn Sanskrit, that's how the goat got its name. That when you learn Sanskrit in one of these 3-year courses, one of the very first things, they have a little book. It's called Infant Reader. It's a little, one has to let go. You can see right from day one in the 3-year course, one starts letting go of one's identity with a certain, I'm a mature person, I've come to a Vedantic 3-year course. I'm here, I'm going to sit in the ashram, and I'm special out of all the people in the world who want to study Vedanta. I'm one of just 90 people who got to be here and study, and that too in in this course with Puja Swamiji. All of this gets dropped off when you pick up that very first Sanskrit book they hand you, called the Infant Reader. And the very first thing, I am Gajaha. Okay? What is that? It's teaching you all about the masculine nouns. This goat, okay? No asti or anything. I am Gajaha. So first thing that you read in the Infant Reader, okay? So this goat, okay? But we're not really talking about goats. Although the goat is indeed Atma, Atma is not the goat, right? So ajam, not subject to birth. Why do we say not subject to birth? Because it's already born, which, yeah, that's true. It's already there. It's not produced, right? There's no production. It's not a product. It's not the result of something. And we say anadi, right? So it has no beginning. No beginning. If it had a beginning, what have we done? This goes back to our, if there's one consciousness sitting in that body and one consciousness sitting in this body, we've limited it. So, ajaha, no birth. It also is going to bring in, it also becomes, that's it. And that's in the next one. That's in the next one. So the next one that we come to, nityam, ajam, and now we have avyayam. And this was another thing that I heard in the Sanskrit class this morning. This is the benefit, staying in the place where all the teaching is taking place. Even if you don't attend class, you get to overhear everything that's being taught. A big blessing. So, avyaya, anybody who's been in Janani Sanskrit classes too will know that we love these words. Why do we love them? If Laura's somewhere online, she should be able to answer this, as should Kat. I haven't looked to see who's here. Who's here right now? Laura's here. No case endings. Yes, there we go. So it's indeclinable, right? What we call indeclinables. And how do we write that in, if we're doing that in our Sanskrit classes? We write a big 0 with a line through it. We say, bah, thank goodness I don't have to remember any case ending for this. Whether it be whether it be the tinganta for the verbs or whether it be subanta for the nouns. I don't have to remember it. Thank goodness there are words like this. So, and I always say, another reason, of course, to love this is because avyaya, Brahman, right? Indeclinable, not subject to any change, not subject to any of the Shat Vikriyas. And what are those 6 modifications? This, I think this is what you were talking about, James, when you were just saying. So what are they? What do we start with? Anybody can jump in here. This is an interactive class. Birthless, good, and deathless, and then there's something in between. So the first thing actually is asti, right? It is. Isness, that isness. What isness? You know, we can talk about it. We can take this from the moment of conception. So asti, jayate, right? Born. It is born. And then what happens to it? It's born, screaming and kicking. Why? Because it's just been thrown out of svarga. You know, the punya just ran out, and suddenly, ow, ouch, you know, because all that squeezing to come out through that birth canal. You know, all those. Think of how many birth canals that this jiva has to get to be sitting in a Vedanta class. How many birth canals has this jiva squidged its way through? Okay, so jayate, born. It is born, and then it growthless. It is growthless, yes, that's right. Okay, Nirmala, I'm seeing it. And grows. Growthless from the perspective of Brahma. But here we say, for the Shat Vikriyas, we say it grows. Vardhate, right? So it grows. And here we say, okay, what do you mean it grows? So it's born, and you get this one... yeah. Spoken like a true mother. You get this one blob, right? And this blob is totally dependent on you. And what does it do? It makes a lot of noise. And then sometimes, as time goes by, after a couple of months, it learns to smile and it gurgles happily, and it does all sorts of interactive things. Starts to interact with you, and then Vardhate, after that it's growing, it becomes larger, and then what happens? I'm not seeing the next one. I'm giving it all away. I mean, I can't, we can't spoon feed it any more than this. And what happens after it starts to grow? Oh, goes straight into decline and death. Well, what about matures? First of all, let's get, I'm not so sure that Bhagavan's not that, there's compassion in what is, okay? There's some time where one is has the body that is in some sort of form, even though it does start decaying at a very young age. It's in some sort of form to enjoy this creation that is, before the pills start coming onto the plate, right? So there is this matures, ripens, we can say. So from being this little blob that doesn't move around very much, that's not able to do anything, then there is this maturation. And hopefully at this time, the body is functioning in a way that one can enjoy the creation. Great time to sit in Vedanta classes. Nothing aches when you sit, with the knees, sit cross-legged on the floor. So it's a great time for that. What's the Sanskrit for maturing? Anybody else want? Anybody help James out with that? Begins with vi. Upasarga vipa, viparinama, okay? Yeah. Okay, so viparinama. it matures, it grows. It's not only grown, it now is matured. And then what happens? Now we can go into our next one, the one that with James, the decay. So this is when the pills all start coming onto the plate, right? This is when the food amount starts going away and the pills start coming. So starts to decay. And then finally, vinashyati, right? And anything that is alive is going to undergo this last change. So that's the Shadvikara. So is Atma subject to all of this? No. Where do we start with all this? Avyaya, okay, indeclinable. So that indeclinable brings in all of this. And then what's, let's see, I think that's all of the words. So that's describing one, for the person who knows this, the one who knows this, how on earth are they, if there's no change that's happening at all, how are they going to say that this Atma is killing something or causing something to kill? We haven't looked at those two words yet. So I think we might be able to we haven't got enough time to maybe look at those. So, ghatayati, cause to kill. It's a little, for those of you Sanskrit buffs, there's a little pratyaya there called nich. And it makes this yakara come in, and it brings in a sense of making something do something. We have there's several levels to this. So we can start at the grossest level, keeping with the theme here. We think of, in modern day parlance, we talk of the hitman, right? You're causing to kill something. You hire the hitman to go and kill something. It's a bit like these suicide bombers that we have. They told that they're going to go and have dinner or breakfast or something with God, and they are indoctrinated in such a way that they will go. They get talked into not only killing themselves, but killing others around them. So, ghatayati, to cause to kill. So in its grossest form, to actually have somebody go off and do this. Then we have a more subtle example. You're sitting in the back of the car. This happens a lot if you're in a country where you choose not to drive because of all the other cars and vehicles on the road. This was Janani in India. And then, or there's a country where just because of based on your gender, you don't drive. So you're sitting in the car, in the back of the car, but what are you saying? No, don't, careful, watch that person here. Be careful. Did you see that cyclist? And then it's like, okay, all right, it's going along. And even though you've told the driver where you're going, no, take a left up here. And the driver was prepared to take a right. No, you should be going left, right here. You need to go left. So this is called, over here, backseat driving, right? So causing the driver to do something. You're not the one who's taking the left or the right. You're not the one who's operating the car, but you're the one who's saying, brake, stop, no, turn this way, turn that way. And I have experienced this on more than one occasion, especially recently over in Saudi Arabia, where, the streets, I think it's a little confusing, the streets there. It's not necessarily on a grid system in some of the cities. And also there's a lot of one-way stuff going on, and a lot of big streets where it's very hard to get the car to go across. And so a lot of telling the driver to turn this way and that way. And sometimes if there's more than one person in the back of the car, two ways at one time. So, you sit there and just kind of just watch the show, So that's another way of causing something, another niche, if you like, another cause something else to do something. And then what about the cooking? Let's think about this. Now we're getting a little more subtle here. And don't forget, we're talking about the Atma being the cause of something that's making something happen, okay? Can the Atma make something happen? So now let's talk about cooking. So who's doing the cooking? The cook, of course, right? Not the cooker, the cook. The cook's doing the cooking. But really, who's boiling the water? Or who's heating up the fat? What is it that's heating the fat? That's not the cook. Unless the cook, has developed very warm hands and has put the pot on the hand and that's heating through the pan. No, it's the fire that's heating up. So the cooking is actually done by the fire. So what's causing the fire to cook? Is that Atma causing the fire to cook? Good question. Nice meditation there for you all, okay? So there's this we have to ask. Is that Atma causing something to happen? Can Atma possibly make something to happen? And of course, all of you being good Vedantins are going to say, no, of course it can't. But the last way, the last way is delegation. One can delegate. So does the Atma sit there and say, and enough with this, you don't need to do this anymore. We're going to delegate that role to somebody else from now on out. He's a nice political one. So, okay, enough with America pretending that they're the rulers of the world. We're going to just really shake their politics up, give it a good rattle and shake around, and we'll see what they think about, being the rulers of the world after this. So, too many electrical things going on here. So, it's delegation of work. Does the Atma sit there and delegate anything? No, of course it's not delegating anything. Why is it not doing any of these things? Because there's no subject-object, right? And we're transcending that subject. There's not even a subject to go ahead. So this is that transcending. And we can say witness. We can say witness. Witness also implies, though, Sujata, it also implies that there's something to be witnessed. So at some point we have to let go of our witness and say, oh, this is even. And we can perhaps, the word transcend is a good word to use here rather than beyond. We have to transcend even the witness. Because when we say witness, we're still witnessing. And witness, it's a wonderful exercise, is to start witnessing all that is objectified by this mind. And at some point, like I say, we need to let go of that witness and transcend, and just everything just is. There's no witnesser or witnessed. But for right now, the witness is a very good way to get the space that's needed in order to take those, those next, to let that next understanding, that next, let the knowledge assimilate into a deeper level. So then the last word in our verse here, hanti, right? To kill. So we can say, although today in Oregon the rain has thankfully come back, but we can say that the sun, all right, the sun lights everything up. It just lights everything up. It doesn't make a choice between, oh, I'm going to light up, as Swamini was saying the other day, just the people who are having the Gita class over here. I'm just going to light up them. And these people over here who are just, they're about to commit some robbery or they're planning some robbery, I'm not going to light them up. The sun doesn't make any choice between what is going to be lit up. In the same way, Atma is not making a choice or choosing what is going to unfold as far as this as though manifestation. And we're going to pick up there, because true to form, we're going to finish right here. And we will meet again on Wednesday, I believe it is. So I will see you all next Wednesday. We'll say the closing prayer. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. And I wanted to say, if any of you have questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat pod here or send me an email. You all have the email, because I think you've all, most of you have signed up through the Janani email, so that one comes to this Janani. And so you're welcome to do that, and we can either get Swami, I can answer them, or I can go ahead and answer them in class next, okay? Thank you all, and we have recorded today, so your attendance is all marked, okay? You're all, it's all Puja Swamiji's blessings coming down. That's right, Ramagiri. Puja Swamiji's, Swaminiji's blessings. Definitely Swaminiji's blessings that's sitting here in front of you all. We will see you all later on, okay?